So I'm thrilled to welcome everyone this afternoon to our webinar as we talk about engagement and care for our employees and ourselves when money is tight. So what we're going to cover in today's session will be the current situation, the importance of employee wellbeing and your wellbeing, and the actual impact if we don't address it. And then we're going to give you 10 low-cost ways to boost employee mental wellbeing. So we all know that being an employer right now and an employee is really tough. We've got COVID-19 and now there's a global recession on top of that. However, there's never been a more important time to be thinking about the mental well-being of our teams and ourselves. But how do you do that on a low budget? Would you believe in a global study that 69% of respondents claimed that this was the most stressful time of their entire career? And this included events like the September 11 terror attacks and the 2008 Great Recession. So there's no denying that everyone's feeling uncertain. We're all grieving that loss of normality. And any crisis reveals fault lines, be it in our work or our personal life, and COVID has certainly done that. We really do all want normal back. However, we can't go back to normal, or at least we don't know when we will. So let's talk about and look at how we can look after our people's well-being and mental health during this highly uncertain time. Workplace stress is expensive. You've got preteeism. Now, this is when employees come to work, but they're unable to perform at their full capacity due to mental or physical distress. Then there's absenteeism caused by mental illness or even just not feeling well. And would you believe that there's a $12 billion loss per year in productivity due to poor mental health in Australia alone? Work on Wellbeing, an Australian research group, reported out what happens when we do actually focus on employees' wellness. And they found that people become more productive to around the tune of $1,000 a year. Employees are generally healthier, so you get less sick days. Wellbeing was also found to increase organisational citizenship behaviour, which is employees helping each other at work. Employees were found to react more positively to workplace changes, and we all know there are a lot of changes going on at the moment. And they also found that people in general were more positive about their workplace and employer, so that then they're going to be more likely to say great things to others about your company, and they're also less likely to leave. There's also research from the Centres for Disease and Control, and they look at work-related stress as the leading workplace health problem with significant occupational health risk. They actually feel that it outweighs physical inactivity and obesity. So if we support our employees' physical and mental health through wellbeing programs, we can really help tackle burnout, stress, turnover, and absenteeism. So let's have a little bit of a chat about wellbeing. It's defined as a holistic understanding of a person's physical, emotional, mental, and social state. It's more than wellness, which typically focuses just on your physical health. It's been found that when we're in a state of well-being at work, we're able to develop our potential, work productively and creatively, as well as build positive relationships with others and cope with the normal stresses of life and make a meaningful contribution. So when trying to improve employee wellbeing, it's best that we focus on aspects that are largely impacted or determined by workplace factors, which we'll talk about today. So it means that as an organisation, you're likely to direct or address any of these areas rather than just provide support. So as we talk through our 10 steps in what you can do to help wellness, the first one is managers showing support. I think alarmingly you would be surprised at the impact that managers have on their employees on a day-to-day basis and how much you're looked up to by your employees, even more so during this uncertain time of COVID. So the best place to start is making sure that your employees are set up to work remotely. Or if they're coming into the workplace, make sure you show that you care about whether they're comfortable coming into the workplace during this period. And if they're uncomfortable or they're not set up to succeed, it's up to you as a manager to find a solution to set them up for success. Another great tool is to make sure you introduce weekly one-on-ones. Now, I know I've certainly talked about this before on other webinars, but it's definitely worth covering again. So it's a scheduled meeting in your calendar, and it's also a mental map for open-ended and anticipated conversations between you as a manager and your employee. So unlike status reports or OKRs or goals, a one-on-one is really there for coaching, mentorship, giving context, or even venting. And the one-on-one goes so beyond just having an open door policy. It dedicates regular time and a regular cadence for your team members to connect to you and also communicate openly with you. So in the new remote world of work, how do you hold effective one-on-ones? First of all, make sure you stick to the schedule. If you have to cancel, reschedule at the same time. Always begin your one-on-one with open-ended questions. Now remember, this is about your employee, not you. So it's best to start with, how are you feeling? Now in this world of videos where we don't have social cues anymore, look for visuals on faces or people wanting to turn cameras up, off, or people even cancelling the one-on-one. Also ask people, what's on your mind? What are your roadblocks? And how can I help? Most importantly, listen to what's being said. A vital part of your role as manager is to make sure your employees feel heard, safe, and empowered. Then next up, you have to look for solutions. So you have to uncover what your employee is excited about. How can you mentor them to be successful and unblock them to do their best work? So here's a few tools for you. First of all, confirm the points that they've been talking about. Just double check. Did you hear correctly what they were saying? And did you interpret them correctly? Feel free to disclose your own weaknesses, places where you've stumbled in the past. This can help your employees feel a lot more comfortable. Always be unconditionally on their side or team, even and especially when giving them blunt feedback for opportunities for growth. Always respect them as a person, not just a performer of tasks. Treat them like a peer. Honesty is always the best approach. And hey, mix it up. Sometimes make a one-on-one a walk on your mobile rather than a video. It will become more social and more conversational if you don't have too much to touch on work-wise. Now, if you're not a manager and you want to best leverage your one-on-one, this is time for you to express to your manager what's on your mind. Maybe you want to brainstorm ideas. Maybe you want to talk about your future goals. So use your time wisely. Set aside time prior to your meeting to organize what you want to talk about and the agenda. Are you feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, blocked, or excited? Think about why you feel this way and jot it down on some type of shared document or documentation that you and your manager can have between you. Remain open to discussing what's really going well and where you need your manager's support. This one-on-one is your opportunity to ask your manager to help remove roadblocks, for example, or if you're feeling frustrated, let them know. And ask for what you want in layman's terms. Remember that no one can read your mind. Is it more responsibility that you want? An opportunity to manage a junior team? Take on a different project? Have a mentor? Discuss these things in specifics, and again, try to take notes. Next up, in terms of our wellness strategies, is flexible working. So we partnered with YouGov to research what Australians really want from their workplace before COVID hit. And a whopping 45% of Australians rated flexible working as the top reason for accepting a job. And this was prior to the COVID pandemic. Now, just because we're working remotely does not mean that people feel empowered to work flexibly. In fact, a lot of surveys are showing that we are working longer hours and getting out of the house less as we work from home and work remotely. So it's really important that you encourage your employees to, for example, use their commute time to do something important to them. It could be exercise, dropping off the kids at school, picking them up, meditation, just getting away from their desks and their laptops. Now, setting an example here as a leader is also really important. Keep your own calendar open and transparent, and make an effort to include your own flexible approach to work. So this could include putting some reminders in to get up and stretch and go for a 10-minute walk during the day. And time off. Encourage annual leave. Even though we can't travel, there are great things that we can do in our own states. Take the lead also. Set an example. Take annual days yourself. Even if it's just a Monday to make a long weekend, you will find that you will be really refreshed after doing so. Our third strategy is to offer yoga or meditation, and we've found this very successful at Employment Hero. Let's just talk a little bit about mindfulness. Mindfulness is defined as paying attention to the present moment with purpose, with kindness, and curiosity. Research has shown that meditation and yoga do help to boost mindfulness. It allows us to respond to stressful situations thoughtfully rather than just react. When we invest in mindfulness practices over the long run, we're able to build the resilience and mental strength needed to successfully manage the many stresses that we face in our lives. So, I hear some of you say, I don't have a budget. So ask your team, do you have any keen yogis, and see if they'd like to lead a weekly yoga class or meditation session. There's also a lot of free apps that you can recommend to your people in your company, and even schedule it during the day so that people have it in their calendar and you're giving them permission to do the meditation or the yoga, whether it's in the afternoon or the morning, by putting it in their calendars. This is a great resource that's been recommended to us by our own employee assistance program, Acacia. And it's a free 20-minute yoga session. We'll send this out at the end so that you have access to it. You could also use this as an opportunity to socially connect by doing it over Zoom as a company offering. And again, you're giving your employees permission to take a break during the day. Our fourth strategy is employee assistance programs. So an employee assistance program is an external program that employers can provide to employees to support their mental health and well-being. It provides your employees and their immediate family members with access to professional counselling and support services when they need it most, and it's confidential. Would you believe that 1 in 2 managers actually think that their employees are immune to mental illness? Yet 20% of Australians aged between 16 and 85 will experience mental illness this year, if not more. In the wake of COVID-19, Beyond Blue estimates that their call numbers have increased by 40 to 60% since lockdowns first began. So for workplaces that want to ensure their employees are happy, healthy and productive, employee wellbeing programs will have a huge impact, both financially and culturally. Did you know for as little as $5 per employee per month, you can provide your employees with an EAP? Pre-COVID, untreated mental health conditions cost Australian workplaces $12 billion through absenteeism, preteeism, and compensation claims. So if you need a case to take to your leadership team for investing in an EAP program, these are the stats that you want to be showing them. Our fifth strategy is to encourage your team to take regular breaks. Overworked employees often deal with chronic stress that can easily lead to job burnout. This negatively affects employee health and well-being. And look, it also negatively affects your bottom line. It's why it's really important that we encourage employees to take breaks throughout the workday, especially lunch breaks. They're essential in helping people de-stress, recharge, and be ready for the rest of their workday. Research has shown time and again that taking regular breaks can help you refresh and re-energize. The last thing you want is your team experiencing burnout. And take your own advice on this one too. You don't want to experience burnout yourself, so make sure you lock those regular breaks into your calendar. So how can you make sure people take regular breaks? Has been a lot of feedback that employees do feel chained to their desks, or they feel like they have to be on 24/7 to prove that they're working while working from home. So psychological safety and trust from a manager and from leaders is so key to giving your employees that permission to take those regular breaks that they need. And look, don't overthink it. Encourage your employees to use their commute time. Also encourage them to connect with family and friends, or grab a virtual coffee with a team member. You might want to send out a message to remind people to take lunch outside. Put it in their calendars. Using calendar reminders or alarms for, let's say, a 9:30 a.m. coffee break is really great. And remember, as a manager, do not ever block a meeting over a lunch hour. So I'd say take from 12 till 2 as non-meeting time. And if you want to make that a policy across your company, that is fantastic. It means that people can schedule their lunch in, get out and get some fresh air, and hopefully have a bit of a walk. And lead by example by placing lunch in your own calendar. So you're taking a break yourself. And again, your employees are seeing that you're taking a break. You're giving them the psychological safety and the permission to actually take that break. Our sixth strategy is to provide an educational workshop on mental health. What better way to show your employees you care than by holding a workshop on it? It also helps to take away the stigma often associated with mental health by opening up the conversation. So you can choose to invest in an external facilitator. If you have an EAP program, you'll find that they'll have professionals on hand that can run workshops. They'll also have webinars that you can run yourself within your company. You may even have someone in your organization with the educational background to run this type of workshop, someone with a psychology degree, for example. There's also a lot of incredible free resources through the Are You OK Day website, such as free webinars. Topics you can cover are things like, what do you look out for? How do you manage your own mental health? And how do you improve your overall well-being? Our seventh strategy is to empower a culture of transparency and vulnerability. Let's talk about vulnerability. It's being talked about a lot at the moment. It's the emotion we feel when we feel uncertain. It's how we feel if or when we're at risk. And it's also exposing our own personal emotions. So an example of being vulnerable might be saying, I love you to someone the first time. It makes you feel uncertain. You're certainly taking a risk and you are exposing yourself emotionally. We're raised to believe vulnerability is a weakness, which is incorrect. We are also raised to be brave. So step one in vulnerability is allow yourself to be seen. Set the example. Be vulnerable. Give others permission to do the same. Why is vulnerability important to well-being? Through showing your true self, you build trust. Trust builds psychological safety. You will also show empathy and allow your people to be open if they are not coping well or having a difficult time. You give them the permission to say that they're also not coping. So how might you be vulnerable as a manager, a leader, or even an individual in your organization? It might be that you share when you felt uncertain during the COVID times. It might be that you felt really resilient when COVID first hit, but this second round has really kind of unnerved you and your resilience is down. Or you could simply start a conversation with a coworker or one of your direct reports by sharing the fact that you're feeling a little overwhelmed with the current uncertain situation. You'll really be amazed at how this opens up the conversation. And our 8th strategy is to champion reward and recognition. Don't allow it to get lost because it has a real impact on our well-being. The deepest human craving is to feel appreciated. So why is it correlated to well-being? At the end of the day, we're going to feel less motivated and engaged if we don't get feedback. Not to mention the effect it will have on an employee's mental well-being if they don't get good feedback. Research has also shown that for every piece of criticism that an employee receives, constructive or not, there are 6 pieces of positive reinforcement needed to counteract that piece of criticism. In a study conducted by Convergent International, it found that 52% of employees in Australia do feel more productive at work when they receive praise and recognition. And only 14% of businesses give their managers the tools they need to recognise their own team members. So how can you reward and recognise employees on a low budget? You've got things like simple shout outs on your communication channels. So Slack, for example, or Teams. Just jump on there and shout out to someone who's done a great job, someone from your own team or from another team. Or if someone's helped you out, just jump on and give them that shout out. You'll be really amazed at how much it makes their day. If you're a manager, use your one-on-ones and team meetings to thank people, to recognise them, and also reinforce great work and behaviours. And try and give examples because it's really meaningful for a person if it's personal when you're recognising their great work. Handwritten cards are also a great tool, especially when we work remotely. Imagine receiving a handwritten thank you note from a leader from your own organisation. Wouldn't you feel great about that and your work? One of the things we've done here at Employment Hero is we've introduced at our weekly all hands verbal shout outs to other teams and people for the week at the very end of the all hands. And it's so lovely to see people appreciate each other, reward and recognise one another. And you can just tell by the smiles on the cameras on Zoom that people really do feel great when they're recognised by other people. And some people look really surprised, and it's just so lovely. Milestones such as anniversaries and birthdays are absolutely vital that you recognise those employees for those milestones. And if you are fortunate enough to have a budget, create a reward program based on your company values. So you're reinforcing those values by giving someone a monetary reward. It could be as simple as a gift card that is $10. They will add up by the end of the year, but you are reinforcing your values and rewarding and recognizing. And here's an example of handwritten cards and milestones here at Employment Hero. So we have your A Hero card, but managers can also use just a general thank you card to send to someone, and then they can get the home address of where to send it. And then we also give out service awards where we do give monetary rewards with those anniversaries where people can spend that money in our discount store. Our 9th strategy is to provide free resources and apps. Sometimes people don't have the time to be looking for these things themselves, and sometimes they don't think of it because they're really busy, they could be stressed, or they might not be coping. So, if you're unable to provide an EAP due to budget restrictions, send your employees suggestions. There are really great apps out there called Calm, Headspace, and Smiling Mind. They're all a great way to unwind at the end of the day, and they can really help you switch off from work. They're helpful, they're easy for beginners, and there are so many free apps in the App Store alone to choose from. You might also have some wellbeing champions in your organisation who can send out links to helpful articles on wellbeing through Slack, Teams, or your method of communicating. Now, our last one is pretty obvious. It's work-life balance. Of course, work-life balance leads to better well-being. However, again, we've been hearing a lot that working remotely has led to people working longer hours, being indoors for a lot longer and giving up on routines such as going to the gym, or they might not feel safe going to the gym due to COVID and the restrictions that we have. So we all know that it is important to our well-being, but lots of people are feeling they have to be on 24/7, and burnout is real. And the consequences are absolutely terrible. The consequences of burnout are a potential emotional or mental breakdown if you don't see the signs and you're not helping to support your employees' well-being. So you as a manager and a leader of a company are responsible to look out for signs of burnout. So it's really important during video meetings and one-on-ones to look for visuals of burnout. Has someone turned their camera off? Have they cancelled the meeting? Have they not shown up for the meeting? Are they still in their pajamas? Do they look like they've just rolled out of bed? And remember to ask those all important questions during your weekly one-on-ones. How are you? Listen to their answer and respond in an honest and sometimes vulnerable way. Also, ask yourself, is my team working overtime every day? So are you seeing them on Slack or Teams or emails at really odd hours of the day? Do you think they're feeling stressed? Are they less engaged? Are they less looking at the camera during meetings, for example? Or has there been an increase in them being absent or taking sick days? And as you ask these questions, so if you're noticing that an employee, for example, is working overtime every day, ask them why they are and how they're coping with that. It could be a sign that they're actually utilizing and taking advantage of flexible work where they're doing drop-off and pickups for school and then they're picking up their email later on in the day. It's not always a sign of burnout, but if it's not a sign of burnout, the employee will still be really appreciative of the fact that you care and that you're supporting them and that you are observing this. And also ask your team how they are doing during team meetings. If you feel that people are not going to be upfront and verbal, there's a great Google app out there called Jamboard, and there are lots of others, which are basically whiteboards where people can use post-it notes to put their answers up on a whiteboard. So you might just have a discussion in a team meeting where you ask these questions and you get people to put post-it notes up so it's anonymous, and then you start the next Jamboard, which is brainstorming for how you can address and be solution-driven and solution-oriented. Also remember to put your own oxygen mask on. We all know we're no good to anyone if we ourselves are on burnout or we're not coping. So ask yourself those other questions. Are you on Slack late? Are you sending out late emails? Now, if you're sending out late and early emails to your team, you're not sending them a very good sign because you're making them feel like they're having to be on 24/7. There are great tools within Gmail and Outlook where you can time when an email will be sent. So time that email to be sent after 8 a.m. the next morning if you yourself are working flexibly and you might just be logging on to clear your inbox at 11 p.m. for example. Talk to your own manager. Use an EAP if you've got it, and talk to your family and friends. There are also great free resources such as Beyond Blue. Please do use them. You can also talk to your GP about a mental health care plan with discounted sessions to speak to a psychologist, which is covered by Medicare and a really fantastic service. And again, back to taking annual leave. Set the example to your team and give yourself a break. Even if you're taking off a Monday to make a long weekend over a period of a few weeks, if you can't afford to take 5 consecutive days off. And again, there are plenty of great places to go locally. Just because we can't fly doesn't mean that we can't take a break. Then we thought we'd bring up some other ideas on top of the 10 strategies. So let's look at well-being being amped up. So you might want to kick off your weekly meeting by having everyone call out a celebration from the prior week. This really helps people get in a great frame of mind, and you'll quite often find it leads to reward and recognition of another team member or alerting the team to another team that's helped your team out the week prior. Ask your employees. We'll send you some good questions to ask them after this webinar. How you're doing as an organisation in looking after their wellbeing. Again, use your alarm or your calendar to remind people to take breaks, and do this for yourself as well. Again, a 9:30 a.m. coffee break. Get out at lunchtime. Social connection. There is a huge human need for social connection. How on earth do we tackle this problem when we're working remotely? We need to create meaningful connections. So we had a team arrange socially distanced lunches in small groups to try and tackle this. And we're also constantly reminding people about the importance of this, to be checking in on their family and friends as well as their colleagues, to be setting up virtual coffee and virtual fun social events so that people can connect socially and have those meaningful connections with people and not feel like they're working 24/7 and that every video conversation they have is work only. So how do you get buy-in and how do you get started? Develop a wellness program. So show your leadership team all the statistics around the importance of wellbeing. Launch a survey. Ask your employees what they want. If you don't have Employment Hero, you can use no-cost tools like SurveyMonkey. And again, we'll send you some great questions. Assess the results and present them out with full transparency. So if there are requests for things that you can't provide because you don't have the budget, just be really honest about that. You know, hey guys, you asked for yoga. Unfortunately, we don't have a budget for it. However, here are some great free tools and free yoga lessons that you can take advantage of. And develop some programs based on your employees' asks. It's really, really important, again, to their own wellness that they feel listened to. And then launch your wellness program. And then conduct another survey to see how you're tracking and to get that feedback and make iterations. And you can also make iterations based on the uptake of, say, yoga sessions, for example. So takeaways and next steps. First of all, leadership buy-in is vital. This will never get off the ground if you don't have buy-in. Ask your employees, talk to them, get feedback, and just get started. As long as you get started with something, you are showing your employees during this time that wellness is really, really important to you as leaders and as an organisation. So before I move to Q&A, and also some of you out there I'm sure will have some fantastic ideas around wellness that we would love to hear about, we will send out a copy of this slide deck. We'll also send out our playbook on the 10 low-cost ways to boost employee wellbeing. We're going to send out our workplace wellness pack, which includes posters and EAP information. And we'll also send you out the COVID-19 employee survey questions so that if you don't have Employment Hero, you can use tools such as SurveyMonkey to be asking your employees. So they are our quick top 10 strategies. I will stop sharing my screen and move to Q&A. And also, I would love it if anyone has ideas that I can call out that you might have implemented in your own organisation that we can all learn from here today. So Adam, hi. Adam asks, what ideas do you have for wellness activities for employees if it's an industry where they can't just take time off throughout the day? It's a customer on the spot industry serving customers and they walk in at any time. Okay, so a really good example there might be a receptionist who absolutely has to work, 8 till 5 to be able to man their reception desk for customers. So you need to be able to be flexible with that person, make sure they are taking their lunch break, make sure you've got someone to cover the desk for them, and give them those tools to be using after hours. So if they're not working extra long hours and feeling tied to a desk, if you can help provide them with those apps and with access to free online yoga and meditation tools and mindfulness, then you'll really, really be helping them. And acknowledge too, it's really important to acknowledge to those employees, I understand that your work is a bit different to someone who's working 100% remotely and flexibly. You can't go for a walk at lunchtime because you are customer facing. So because of that, I'm going to implement strategies here and there, or I'm going to give you other tools. It's really important that you acknowledge that their role is different and explain why. Hi, Lockie. Lockie asks, how do you get leadership buy-in for wellness program initiatives such as weekly yoga in a professional services firm that is geared towards billable hours? Again, go back to those statistics around what the costs are to not having a wellness program, by having employees be absent, by having preteeism. So they're still showing up to work, but they're not their most productive. That it costs the Australian economy $12 billion a year if you ignore this problem. If you show them those statistics, then you will hopefully get buy-in straight away from them. And again, explain to them also, if you book in a yoga session at 4 p.m, at 10 a.m, whenever it might be throughout the day, you're giving your employees permission to take a break, which is really important to give them that permission. And if they know and they start to see leaders going to those yoga programs, they see it in people's calendars if you're doing it through Zoom, they will start to join the programs. People will start to talk about it. And importantly, again, you're illustrating and showing your employees that you care about their overall wellness. Next question. What can I be asking my employees around wellbeing? I don't want to be intrusive. That's a fantastic question. We will send out our COVID-19 questions, and you can let employees know they don't have to answer all of the questions, but you should be asking them, how are we doing as an organisation in supporting your wellbeing? How are you doing coping with COVID-19? And usually you will get people being honest. And if they're not coping, it's really good to throw a question in. What more could we be doing? Again, you might not have the budget to be able to give them what they're asking, but if they're asking for solutions, acknowledge that you don't have the budget to implement it, and it's a great idea and you'll look at doing it when the economy recovers, but you're acknowledging it and you're also asking for their input and suggestions, which again illustrates that you care about their wellness. Again, sorry I joined late, so apologies if you've covered this. Do you have any examples of ways to have social events online? We've done trivia, but that's it. Absolutely. So happy hour is a great one. Another great one is get to know teams. So you can jump online and you might choose a team, and you're going to highlight that team of say 4 people over a virtual happy hour, or it might be at 4 p.m. during the day, and start by having the team leader explain what that team does and the OKRs or the goals of that team. And then there's a bunch of great questions which we can also send out that you can ask each of those employees so that they're being asked questions where the rest of the organisation is getting to know them. A really good one is pick the latest photo on your phone, show it to everyone on the camera, and tell us what that photo means to you or why you took it. And that's really insightful into someone's life and who they are, and they feel important because you're spotlighting them in getting to know them. Another one is a game called Scribblo, which is online Pictionary. And we were a bit skeptical about this one, but it was a lot of fun. It's free. You get to create a room where people are jumped into, and then the person gets pinged what they have to draw, and then they draw it. And it's absolutely hilarious. It gives the brain a great break, but it's a creative break. So you're using the other side of your brain than what you're normally using. We've also used The Amazing Race, if you do have the budget, at $30 per person. And they did a virtual trivia night for us, but it was a trivia night combined with The Amazing Race. So they ported us into rooms with team members that we wouldn't normally work with, and we answered a bunch of 10 questions at a time. We all got ported back to the main room. It was a lot of fun. And an example of The Amazing Race was you're sitting in your home. Alex, you've got 30 seconds to go and grab a Monopoly board game and crack an egg into a glass. And so either I'm able to find those things and do it, or I'm not, and I don't get the points for my team. That was really great as well. And virtual happy hours after all hands are also a really great way just to get people talking. And as long as people understand they can be muted and they don't have to be involved in the conversation, they can just listen, you're more likely to get introverts join. Some introverts don't like a virtual happy hour because they feel like they're going to be spotlighted or have to talk. So make sure people understand that they can be muted, they can be multitasking, they can just be listening, they can just be wanting to get to know people. Hi, Anonymous. They've said, hi, Alex. Thank you. They've said, great session. Can you please tell me how to identify high-risk employees and the difference between disengagement and actual mental health problems? That is a fantastic question. So, disengagement would be work starting to drop, deliverables starting to drop, people not coming to meetings on time, people not smiling on cameras, people not attending any of those social events that you might be having virtually. If you are noticing that someone is never there, reach out to them and just be absolutely blunt. Alex, I've noticed you haven't come to any of the social gatherings. Are you disengaged? Do we need to talk about you looking for a new role? Or are you not coping? Because I'd like to be able to help you. Now, we're not psychologists ourselves, so don't feel that you have to be able to help someone that says they're not coping. Encourage them to go to a GP and get a mental health program. Tell them to reach out to the EAP or Beyond Blue or one of those resources. Remember, you don't have to solve the problem as a manager. You're just there to help facilitate and also importantly show them that you do care. From an anonymous employee, we do Friday Zoom drinks at 4:30 each week. That's fantastic. And this week we've organised a virtual wine tasting event. Everyone has been sent a sample of wines from the social quaffer. That's a fantastic idea. Thank you so much for suggesting that. And if you've got the budget and the money, it's really wonderful to send out a range of sample wines or even gift cards. So if you're going to have a virtual hour, keep in mind that not everyone drinks alcohol, so by giving them a gift card you're giving them permission to go out and buy some nibbles and a soft drink as well. And it's also really fantastic that you're doing that at 4:30 p.m. You're not intruding in anyone's life, especially for those who are balancing family responsibilities at the moment along with work. You're doing it at 4:30 during work time, which hopefully means everyone will log in. Social quaffer, I'm just going to write that down. And another anonymous attendee, do you have any recommendations for a virtual yoga instruction, or do you offer an on-demand service? We don't offer an on-demand service. We'll send this deck out. Those sessions with Andrea that are included in this deck are really fantastic. And we also use, and I can get the name for Julia to send this out. Julia is our head of content and social in our marketing team, and I think they're called Bad Yogi, and it's a husband and wife team, and they do the yoga sessions on Zoom for us, but they also hold those yoga sessions as on-demand sessions so that people outside time zone, or if someone that likes to do yoga in the morning, they can do it in the morning, or they can do it at the end of the day if that's their preference. Next question. Our CEO works long hours, including weekends. He expects all staff to keep up with his momentum. As HR, we are constantly getting feedback regarding expectations around workload. Many of our staff work 13+ hour days as a result of this. What suggestions do you have for us to address this with both the CEO and other staff? The mental health effects are enormous for us. So the best way is through employee feedback and data. If you can do an employee survey or send out the COVID-19 questions and even add a couple of questions, what's your biggest bugbear, or what are we doing that's creating stress for you? The amount of answers that you will get back, probably saying and even stating your CEO's name, saying they send out emails at all hours, etc., etc. Now, if you can't get your CEO on board to time emails so that they come out at a reasonable hour, you simply need your CEO at an all hands or in some kind of communication to actually address this issue with all employees. So everyone, I've heard the feedback, but me as a CEO, I am just obsessed with the business, the organization, and with all of you. So I do work 24 hours and I'm also balancing a family. So with that, do expect to get emails and Slack messages from me on weekends. Expect to get them late at night and early in the morning. By no means do I, as the CEO, have an expectation of you to work 13+ hour days. I have no expectation that you'll answer those emails. You're really setting the example, which is great. Terry Green has some tips for us. Thanks, Terry. I have found that during COVID, sending employees recognition to their home by way of a personalised hamper has been so welcomed. It is a little costly for those that really deserve it, but it works so well. Also, what has worked well is sharing the funniest or embarrassing holiday snaps or photos as a social activity, as long as not appropriate. Love it, Terry. That's fantastic. Unfortunately, I know that a lot of companies aren't in a position to send out hampers. So going back to, if you don't have that budget, a handwritten card is a really, really lovely way to appreciate someone. And if you can afford to put a gift card in there, go for it. If you can afford to do a hamper, that is just such a good idea. I love your idea of sharing the funniest or most embarrassing holiday snaps. Another really good tip is to make sure you're creating fun channels on Slack or Teams. That might be, we've got social sharing, which is basically anything social that someone wants to share. It might be something funny from Facebook. We have an Animals Being Cute channel because we have loads of pet owners. So they put not just pictures of their own pets on there, they'll put memes on there, videos, anything fun. And it can really break up the day and you'll see engagement from people. And again, back to that other question before of signs to look out when someone might not be engaged and might not be doing well. If you're seeing that someone is never responding or getting involved in chatter online through Slack or Teams or your method of communication, reach out to them or reach out to their manager. So look, I've noticed that Alex hasn't been engaged in conversations for the past couple of weeks. Can you please reach out to her, let her know you've observed this, and also ask her how she's doing. Is it that she's not coping? Is it that she can't prioritize? And just be there as a manager to help. We've got Laura. Laura, this is a great idea. We did a fancy dress theme for our last town hall on Zoom and had a prize for the best costume. We also played bingo afterwards and gave out gift vouchers as prizes. That's a fantastic idea. We've been doing some themed Zooms. A really easy one is your favorite sports team's gear, because everyone has that in the house. Just be mindful at the moment when theming ideas up, a lot of people aren't leaving the house. So try and think of things they might have in the house. So formal gear is a really great one as well. Make people actually dress up for an all hands or for a Zoom. Next one. I've noticed a lot of employers sending care packages sending care packages to employees. Do you have any ideas for what to send my team to show that I appreciate them? Yeah, absolutely. So if you just Google at the moment, there are a lot of companies who have pivoted. A lot of companies, like I think it's hampers.com, who have pivoted to helping out corporates. So if you just Google corporate hamper to send to employees, you will get a lot coming up on Google. And there's anything from food kits to help people get into cooking at home, to cocktail making kits, to pamper packs. So that would be a spa pack, which might include things for a spa, and it might even include a towel and those types of things. So this is another great suggestion. We are playing the remote game hosted by Banana Life from 3 to 4 p.m. It looks like a fun and relaxing team activity. We have sent out packs of chocolate or a bottle of wine. You gave the employees the choice for team members to enjoy while playing the game. That is a fantastic suggestion. Thank you so much. And Banana Life, for any of those who have never been on there before, it's also, I've used it for my husband, who is not the easiest person to buy gifts for. They have great gifts where you give the person the choice of an experience rather than actually giving them something. So whilst playing remote games, you could also use Banana Life to purchase for your employees a surprise pack where they get to pick what they might spend their money on. We've also got another great suggestion from Terry Green. Speak to Annette at Get Zest, fabulous yoga and meditation. So that was Get Zest, Z-E-S-T, and her name is Annette. From Kim, we have an online book club via Slack where book recommendations and requests are posted. We've worked out how to share books via Kindle, and we're also post among the group where relevant. We're in Melbourne, so all stuck at home. Oh, I'm really sorry, I feel for you, but it sounds like you're doing a great job. You've also found some funds to send a small hamper to everyone in the team this week. Craft boxes for team members with kids. I have heard that go down really well in Melbourne. And you've said here, Kim, that it's a minimal fee and it's had a huge impact. So again, if you've got the budget, sending out those hampers is a really, really fantastic method for engaging your employees and looking after their wellness. We have another great suggestion here. We have a virtual morning tea every Tuesday morning for 30 minutes and a different theme each week, such as your favourite holiday, favourite food. We had a lip sync week. That was hilarious. Oh, that would have been a lot of fun. It gives each member in the team an opportunity to share something about themselves, though with no pressure, so if they don't want to. Yeah, and that's a really, really important one. So if you're going to send out a talent competition, for example, or lip syncing, it's really important to let everyone know that you don't have to be a participant because you don't want to put your introverts off. You want to make sure they're feeling comfortable coming and that they can just be there. They can just be there to watch and be entertained and get to know the people who are the extroverts willing to get involved in the fun activity. And on to Natalie. Are there any tips or strategies on managing wellbeing for frontline workers? It is often hard to catch up during the day due to wearing PPE and COVID-19 restrictions on accessing technology. Yeah, that's a fantastic thing that you point out there, Natalie. There are a lot of people who are essential workers. Nurses are a really good example who have to be there at work. We've got factory workers. My husband is at the moment actually balancing the difference between his office workforce and those who have to be in the factory all day, every day to keep them in business. A really good idea would be to put together some kind of pack for all of those workers who have to go to work and are wearing PPE. Give them some tips on wellbeing, yoga, give them free Beyond Blue if they're needing help, and make sure you're coaching managers to keep an eye on them and check in on them. You'd be really surprised at, for those workers who are essential workers, having their manager or any leader in the business say to them, Alex, how are you doing? How are you coping with COVID? And how are you coping with the fact that you're coming into the office every single day? Are you having anxieties? Is there anything I can help with? Now, again, you're not a psychologist. You don't have to solve the issue, but you can point them to resources that will help them. By simply asking, though, you are showing those employees that you really do care about them. And we have a great suggestion here from Cassie Harris. We sent thank you letters to all the kids of our working from home parents for being super helpers at home or super good learners. It was cheap and it had a huge impact on engagement and staff experience. I agree entirely, Cassie. Sending out any kind of note or level of appreciation really shows your employees that you care. I also do think that employees understand that that takes a lot of time, that they can only get addresses from HR, that, you know, every person across the company due to privacy reasons doesn't have access to, to addresses, but it does mean a lot to employees to just be acknowledged. If you can't afford a hamper, go back to that card. It doesn't have to be handwritten. You can print it as well and then do labels and send it out. Yes, it's time consuming, but you will be amazed at the impact it has on rewarding your employees, making them feel recognized, and again, coming back to really helping with their wellness. So thank you so much, everyone, for your questions and suggestions. I can give you 6 minutes back if there are no other questions for anyone. Again, we'll send everything out, and I might look back on those questions around the couple of suggestions. There was a yoga suggestion, someone for sending wine, and also for some suggestions for sending hampers out. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I can't thank those enough for the ideas that you've given us. They were terrific, and I've noted a few of them down myself. So I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you next week when we hold our next webinar to help us all get through this uncertain time. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Bye.